Welcome to the CXPod, where we aim to expand people's perception of customer experience management. We know that customer experience goes hand in hand with employee experience, and we believe that a broader and more holistic view might even replace terms like CX and EX with people experience or human experience.
Hey there, and welcome to the CX Pod. Hello, Joanna.
Hello, Merete.
This is weird.
Yeah, we don't usually sit together, but this morning we got the opportunity.
It's a little like, I'm like, who is this person? And welcome to you, Anna-Maija.
Thank you. Great.
Unfortunately not in the same room.
Yes. But really nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you, Anna-Maija. And of course, we will be in the same room in just a couple of months' time.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
But we'll delve into that shortly.
Yeah. You don't want to do that now?
Yeah, I think, that would be a great time. Anna-Maija, we know each other, all three of us. We got to spend a fantastic day together in April 2024 when we launched the first ever Nordic business-to-business customer experience conference. Of course, we, together with Torben from Denmark, who has also been on the podcast recently, we were the co-founders, and of course Merete was the host for the day. So, and we're coming back again. So I'm thrilled to work together with you on this activity, and of course thrilled that you'll join us for the CXPod today. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, and couldn't be more excited that we are coming back for the Nordic B2B Customer Experience Conference. As I have devoted my life on the B2B business and how to improve customer centricity in the B2B. So I'm really happy that we get a chance to do the conference again, and we have an amazing list of speakers representing some of the most interesting B2B companies in the Nordic.
I just love how very customer unfriendly the name of the conference is. It's like the B2B customer, business to business, Nordic business.
I think it kind of fits because we are in B2B, so we are not in, it's not like some kind of a retail business or something. So it kind of fits. It's a bit serious and it's very factual.
It's just very long. It's like the B2B Nordic CX Conference, but
we might shorten it.
Yeah, it's a great conference. I mean, obviously, I'm not totally objective about it, but I think it's great with the B2B initiative, and that's also why we're so happy to have you on the podcast, because we do realize that a lot of the times that we're talking about customer experience, we seem to think about the end user or the end consumer. But I was just reflecting recently as well how both, business to business is one thing, but there's also the internal customers, and even, your partners, your business partners are also in some way your customers. So I think it's great that we have you on today, Anna-Maija, because you are the most B2B person within CX that I know of. And also you're located in Finland, which is really, really cool because we're trying to represent the full Nordic sort of perspective in this podcast. And so it's great to have you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience, what brought you into the field of CX, and where are you today? What are you doing? And how did you end up working with B2B specifically?
So I have been always really interested in people and how people behave. And I actually started my career in change management consulting back in the days. And after some years working as a consultant, I really craved for that in-house experience, kind of like that real work experience. And I had heard about customer experience in a project. This was back in 2009 or 2010 when I worked as a consultant in Nokia. So of course we all know Nokia, what it used to represent. It was of course a very consumer heavy business, but they were very customer focused. And that kind of like caught my attention that this is really interesting field because it kind of combines this human behavior and business side of things. And then I noticed that global elevator and escalator company Kone had recently opened a position in their customer experience team. I applied for that position and joined them. So this was in 2012, so 12 years ago. And it was really exciting times working with Kone. I really got to kind of like see the whole change curve of a CX program. We started with NPS back in the days. And then we evolved to kind of like more continuous customer understanding in the business process level and in the customer journey level. And overall, I think the kind of the key learning for me was how to impact this cultural change. So working in a matrix global company that is very product centric, like most B2B companies are, I really learned that to become successful in CX, you need to start with the people. You need to work with the people, and especially the people who are there in the front line with the customers, not just with the headquarter people. Overall, very rewarding and great years in terms of learning. Then after 7 years, I felt like it's time to move on. And for me, it was natural to step back into the consulting world. And as I had been working in the B2B field, I really wanted to kind of expand from there and support other B2B companies to become more customer centric. And now I have worked as a B2B CX advisor the past 5, almost 6 years, I think. And the past 2 years, I have had my own company CX agency.
All right.
That specializes 100% in business to business customer experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really
So I work
amazing.
with, I work a lot with manufacturing companies, technology companies, more with these global matrix, bigger companies, but also with the medium and smaller size companies. I think they are all very unique, but they are all very different from the kind of the customer experience case studies we typically hear in the kind of the consumer world. So that was really why I wanted to start CX agency, was to offer more dedicated support and advice for B2B. I think the kind of the common Amazon case studies and examples, they don't really resonate in the B2B world in that kind of a way.
Yeah. And do you see that there is a growing, what should I say, interest to adopt the way that customer experience methodologies within the business to business categories now?
Definitely. Many people assume that B2B is kind of like behind consumer experience. And I think on the digital aspects, B2B is actually catching up really
Yeah, I think
fast.
so too. Yeah.
If I think about my customers, the big companies, the kind of the core B2B operations like maintenance and lifecycle support, they're already very digital. So companies are monitoring their equipment performance from distance. Even if we take elevators as an example, if the elevators doors close a little bit too slow, there is an alert and they are able to fix that from the distance. So without a need to kind of send people in there to investigate. So we can already see that B2B is coming very digital. So this kind of opens up new possibilities for customer understanding as well. And I feel like the kind of the customer centric thinking is actually very advanced in B2B. And there's so much more to do in that field as well, because traditionally these companies have been very product centric. So the kind of the discussion have been always around products. So product features, product pricing, product investments. So I don't think it is that anymore. So it has definitely changed in the past 10 years. And these companies are very interested in understanding their customers, their customer goals, customer needs, expectations. And as we all know, the customer scale is more complex in B2B. So is it about the decision maker, the kind of the buying customer, or more operative, or even a partner? So in that way, there is a lot to do on the CX field.
I just need to ask, Anna-Maija, and it may seem as a simple question, but I don't really think it is. What is, in your opinion, the biggest difference between working with B2B and B2C? Like, what is it that divides them into these B2B, B2C groups?
Good question.
Thank you.
Well, I think one of the biggest differences is that if we just think about the amount of customers, so the market is very small in B2B. It's fairly typical that by interviewing 200 customers, you can already capture 80% of a company's revenue. That typically never happens in B2C, where the market is very large and you need to do a lot of research, understand different segments and so on. So in B2B, it is fairly kind of easy to know where to start from. Let's take our high value customers. We see this 80 rule repeatedly in B2B. Just by focusing on understanding the high value customers, we already have a really good business case for the management. So that is definitely one of the key differences, the amount of customers, and then the customer journeys. So if we think about the consumer journey, it's fairly simple. It's you and me. We are walking the journey, the end-to-end journey. We are the ones making all the decisions. But then when we get to B2B, it is not that simple. So it's very, very rare that the same customer walks the whole journey from beginning to the end. They need to consult different internal stakeholders. They will hand over certain journey parts to their colleagues. And then we have these customers who are not even actually customers, like partners or influencers, who are working there with the paying customer and actually influencing if the journey even begins or not. So we cannot really approach the journey from the purchase point of view. So I feel like in the B2C, the focus is more on the, purchasing and using a product or service, where in B2B, it's really about understanding what brings value to these different customers. What are their jobs to be done? The fact that their journeys actually begin and end throughout the whole journey. So there are multiple different journeys to.
And I never thought I would say this because it's always sort of felt like it was B2B having to learn from B2C. But to be honest, I think B2C really need to start learning from B2B as well, because what you say about mapping up the jobs to be done, even if you have the same stakeholder throughout the whole journey as a B2C customer, there's so many steps that are being skipped just because I think we get fooled a little bit by the simplicity of dealing with the one stakeholder instead of the many. So I think a great answer to the question. I think, the B2B, B2C thing is really, really fascinating. And it's so great to have you on to be able to talk about this specifically, because we do talk to a lot of B2C people.
Anna-Maija, what is capturing your attention the most these days in the customer experience?
Well, one thing I'm personally very invested at the moment is the kind of the bigger shift from reactive to predictive. So this is something that my customers are very interested in understanding at the moment. So how can they move from reactive mode to more predictive mode in customer experience management? If we think about the common use cases like the KPIs, so it is no longer enough just to understand your NPS score or your customer effort score. You need to combine that understanding with the information that what is it that you need to do to impact those lacking indicators. So my customers are very, very interested in understanding what their leading indicators are and how they can use these leading indicators as change drivers. So that's definitely like one of the areas that's catching my attention. And I believe artificial intelligence technology definitely have a role to play here, but we cannot just put all of this to the AI and technology bucket. So there's still a lot of kind of, let's say, strategic thinking we as human beings need to do in order to understand that there's a difference between lacking and leading. And as companies, it is our job to become more predictive. If we think that elevator example earlier, if we are already monitoring our equipment performance 24/7 without need for humans to always intervene, why couldn't we be monitoring our customer journeys 24/7? Why couldn't we get more predictive in this domain as well? So this is definitely something where I believe that the CX teams as well need to evolve. So we need to support the companies in becoming more predictive and proactive in the way how we manage the customer journeys and how we manage the customer experience. So it's just not enough anymore to look at the lacking data, dashboards, graphs, and past outcomes.
Yeah. And I think there's two things about what you're saying there. One, and this is actually something you wrote in one of our newsletters, and I just want to give, now that you're here in the same room, a big shout out. Joanna creates all of our newsletters to everyone listening and watching, and does an amazing job. And I think this was a newsletter with regards to the episode with Michael Brandt from...
Let's know.
Yeah, isn't it? Anyway, Michael.
Sorry,
anyway.
Michael.
But what you said, and I think maybe he was one saying it, but this was really clear in the newsletter, that AI is not a strategy, it's a tool, right? So that's the one thing. And then the other thing I love about what you're saying in your answer there is moving from reactive to predictive and not necessarily proactive, because I'm not opposed to proactive either. But there's a little challenge in being proactive because we know that we still don't have good enough data sometimes to be proactive. So I like the little twist with predictive instead of proactive, if you follow, or am I just down my own rabbit hole now?
No, absolutely not. But this is a really interesting topic, because what is it that can enable a company to be predictive rather than just reactive, proactive? Is it technology? Is that part of the answer?
I think technology is an enabler, but it doesn't solve anything. Let me give you an example. Many times when I work with my customers and we look at their customer feedback, what we conclude is that we have heard these same topics over and over again. So it's repetitive issues coming from customers, such as lack of responsiveness, more information about your products, your portfolio, how could you support us with our sustainability targets, more understanding what you do as a company, more meetings, more audits, more support to get me kind of in a state where I am prepared for the future as a decision maker. Operative contacts just asking for better clarity and information about any delivery delays or any hiccups and so on. So it's really the simple things. And I think many times my customers say that we need to renew our survey. So we need to ask different questions because this insight is not providing any new findings to the organization. But rather the question should be, why are we not fixing the root cause issues? So I think here we come to the predictive. We don't necessarily need technology to tell us what is it that we should improve. Let's just start from our own data, from those findings, those repetitive issues we have heard year on year and from survey to another. What if we start systematically fixing these root cause issues? That is predictive customer experience management. And if we focus on the right things that produce value to the customer, such as building customer competence, we should start to see the impact in our hit rate, in our revenue, and in our CX KPIs like NPS. So it's really very simple things. But the challenging part is that the organizations don't necessarily have the right structures to make these decisions, or they don't know who should be making these decisions, in which forums, and so on. So I think technology here, it's really an enabler. It will never solve this issue of cross-organizational governance and ways of working.
I'm starting to think that you should become a podcast host, because you're serving a perfect segue into the next question with what you're saying right now. So, but did you have something to add, Joanna, before we move on?
No, move on.
And we're already sort of dipping our toes in this topic as well. But I was going to want to ask you, how do we ensure that customer insights are being sort of used to operationalize customer improvements?
Yeah, I think this is another very interesting angle, in a sense that when I work with my customer companies, oftentimes there is a lot of fear that CX will add more to the plate. So the key stakeholders, the business area directors, the people with profit and loss responsibility, they don't want to attend any new steering committees. They don't want to be part of any new forum unless it provides tangible value to them. So I believe that instead of always investing or inventing a new CX committee or a steering forum, we should actually integrate customer thinking, the insights and the competence in the existing management agenda. So mapping the existing roles and responsibilities we have, what are the existing forums and meetings? So CX should be part of all of those. It's much more easier to integrate CX in the right tables than, trying to get the right stakeholders to attend your CX steerings and meetings. So I think here it's really a low-hanging fruit. Then we can see that what we need in addition. So most often we have certain management team meetings where we can take things as findings, but we still need some way how we kind of work around and discuss those findings. This inner and outer loop process, that how we work with different stakeholders in the organization around the findings, how we discuss those root cause issues before we take them to the right forums for decision making. And I think here we have to be dynamic. It has to depend on the topic. If customers talk about logistics issues or spare part delivery delays, let's involve people who work in logistics to that discussion. If customers talk about lack of competence or lack of information, let's include sales, let's include the key account managers. So I think we have to be dynamic, and the role of CX team is to facilitate these kind of discussions and identification of the right stakeholders to be part of these discussions.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I'm just thinking, I'm going a little bit in myself here, because I'm thinking, I've just been helping a customer to define how their customer experience task force should look. But what you're saying makes so much more sense. Don't create even more meeting forums, get rid of the task force and be an active part within those.
Infiltrate.
Absolutely. And of course, you need to have something with you to bring to the discussion. And this is, of course, where data and voice of the customer.
And that's a perfect opportunity to mention our sponsor, Navigate, who will provide you with the data and the insight that you need, because this is a survey platform that we're very happily collaborating with. So if you want to check them out, you can do that at navigate.net. You need the insight, you need the data, and you need to bring that to the table. And I love the idea of, let's not create a CX task force. Let's just infiltrate every other meeting.
I've got to go back to my customer now and say, I'm sorry, I've got it all wrong.
Anna-Maija, you should actually invoice Joanna for consultancy now.
But no, it's a really good point. And I know, Anna-Maija, you have worked a lot with voice of customer and with a company such as Netigate, Lumua in Finland, which is now part of Netigate.
Lumua and Netigate are now merged.
So I don't know if you want to add any your take on using voice of the customer software. Do you think it's an asset to B2B companies?
Definitely, yes. Every B2B company needs a voice of the customer software, and I think the key target there should be to have an integrated view. So not just the voice of the customer data, but also your business data and your operational data. So you can get like a 360 view that, okay, customers are commenting about lack of responsiveness. We can see that we have been late in all of these deliveries. And we haven't communicated anything to the customer. So it's kind of a really obvious case that what is it we should do differently. And I also think this financial data, you need that to back up your CX findings. Otherwise, once again, if you go into those management team meetings and if you just show the data from the customer surveys without any financial indication, what are the business risks? So what are the opportunities if we start fixing these issues? You will really not get traction. So you have to learn to speak the language of the people in whose table you are sitting.
Great. It reminds me, and continuously now going back to Helge's Venn diagram with the customer value and the business value. And if you find the sweet spot in between, everyone's happy, right? But you need data to find those sweet spots.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes. What do you think, what do you believe, Anna-Maija, will be the next major revolution in customer experience?
Well, I already talked a lot about this predictive part, but if I think about the different CX domains, I'm seeing the whole voice of the customer area in the kind of the biggest turbulence at the moment. Thinking like the tradition, we have been measuring NPS for a couple of decades already and adding more kind of KPIs like customer satisfaction and customer effort score in the mix. So I think this is definitely an area where companies are waking up that it's just not enough to survey our customers. What is it that we need in addition to that? So I think we are entering this beyond surveys era where companies get more curious to understand also the social media reviews and the feedback. We have conversational AI, we have AI-assisted customer listening, such as AI analyzing a call center operation and the customer sentiment without a need to send a survey. Or then we have what I see specifically in the B2B, this kind of targeted focus group interviews. For instance, high-value customers. Or let's take a key segment. You want to grow in a certain segment, so let's have a focus interviews among these segments. we all know that the email surveys get a really low response rate nowadays. If you get 5 to 10% response rate, I mean,
that's really
clearly
good.
most of your customers are not even bothering answering those. So we are going beyond this survey era.
We're going to put that one in a quote in the newsletter.
But I think
beyond surveys.
Yeah, and also because if you do get 10% response rate, that's considered good, but it's not good enough, right? No. But I love what you're saying, because basically what you're saying there is, and I hate that this is a phrase that's stuck with me, but it's making voice of the customer programs great again. Because we're actually making it about the voice of the customer now. It's not just about the survey data, but it's the full voice of the customer, right? Yes. It's everything they say in every single platform they say it, not just the survey. So I think, and I love the fact that we now have tools, and even Navigate/Lumwa can do, you can analyze amounts of data from a customer call center. And from what the conversations have been about, you can categorize it, you can analyze it, put sentiment on it, understand how it drives your NPS up or down. And back to the NPS, like, I don't think we should anytime soon necessarily get rid of NPS, but I think we have matured, and we still need to mature around the way we use it. And I keep referring to the bathroom scale, right? It doesn't really matter what your neighbor weighs. If your goal is to become stronger, you need to be watching your own weight and doing your initiatives but that's going to work for you. And it's the same with NPS. Really, it's not a benchmark metric, to be honest, or at least that's not the first thing it should be used for. You can use it for that as well, but to begin with, you need to start doing it for yourself. Yes. So I love what you're saying, and beyond VOC, that should be a book title.
Yeah. Beyond surveys. Yeah, it should.
We're solving world problems here now. We should be in the same room more often.
Anna-Maija, you're going to go away thinking, oh no, I've got to write a book now.
No, but I think I've seen that this also resonates with my clients. They don't want to add on more surveys, but they need better ways to listen to the customers, exactly like you said. So we as CX consultants, especially talking about my field of experts, we need to be smart. We need to support our customers to get the best kind of customer understanding. So recommending more surveys, I think that's a lazy way out. As you said, using Navigate, you can already reduce the number of surveys by really kind of like using the data you already have.
And there's nothing to ruin a good customer experience as a bad customer survey, right?
No,
exactly.
You created the best experience, and then you ruin it by saying, in what degree would you like to recommend this to a friend or colleague? Yeah. And I'm like, so I don't recommend I have a little chip in my car. So whenever I pass because you have to pay driving in and out of the city center, for instance, and they send me an invoice and they send me a survey asking how willing are you to recommend us? And I'm like, it's a chip in my car. I don't recommend that stuff. Not falling into the rabbit hole of NPS question. Yeah. I do want to actually change the next question, because originally it said, what's the main reason for a company to enable customer experience as a driver, right? To achieve a competitive advantage. But I want to flip it a little bit, and I want to ask, what should a company start with to be able to enable customer experience as a driver to achieve competitive advantage?
I think that the most important starting point is to define the purpose of customer experience in your company. So why is customer experience important, and why is customer understanding important for you as a company? And once again, talking about B2B companies, most of them have customer mentioned in their strategy in one way or another, but it's often very vague. We are talking about being customer obsessed or customer centric and so on, but that doesn't tell really anything to anyone. So I think that should be the starting point to defining the role of customer understanding in your company strategy. So how does better customer understanding really support your company in reaching your next 3 to 5 year strategic targets? And then the next step would be to define how we're going to get there. And customer listening is, of course, one aspect, how to get there.
Just a side question or add on to that. Who should define it, though? Who should define what the purpose should be? Should it be the top management? Should it be everyone? who should be part of that discussion? Because I think
it definitely shouldn't be just the top management. We want people to contribute. We want people to be part of that definition. So the best projects on the CX strategy that I have run, we have really utilized the force of the whole company. So everybody have had, let's say, chance to bring out their ideas and their contribution in the process. Because if we think about the strategy, one part is to define a strategy. We can define a strategy very efficiently in a 2-hour meeting, but we need to implement that strategy.
And that's
if
the
we're
reason
going to implement it, like, why not involve the people who will be actually implementing it?
And it's the reason for the question, spot on right there, because, working for a company we are going to have the most satisfied customers as one of the 4 main sort of goals, right? But we've never really talked too much. Well, now we have, but we hadn't really talked too much about, okay, so what does that mean? What does that look like? What does it look like when our customers are the happiest customers in our industry? Right? If you don't know what it means, you don't know how to get there.
And why I would start from here is I have seen many times that the companies have kind of skipped this phase. And then later on, they are thinking, what should we ask our customers, or how should we redefine our delivery or sales processes or our key customer process? Because they don't have these, kind of like guiding principles, such as we want to be seen as a proactive, flexible, or trusted advisor, and it means that in the sales, this is how we deliver it, or in the other parts of the customer journey, this is how we deliver the vision. So it's really difficult to develop customer experience if you don't have any vision to support the development.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think as well, my experience and learnings from working right the way from retail in rituals that I've talked a lot about, where making involvement of customer experience integrated in everything from the onboarding to the continuous training, that's when you see success happen. And I see exactly the same in the business to business. I had a workshop only last week where we were living the customers. We were actually recording podcast. So we were actually walking in the customers' lives by actually doing role play. And I know people don't like role play, but at the end of the day, it's when you do things, when you engage, when you start to use your mind, your body, your feelings, that you start to realize the depth of it, that you start to integrate that into. So this is our customer. This is the reason that we should be doing this. So I think,
and you don't understand what it's like to be your own customer if you don't try a day or a month or even a week or a year in your customer's shoes. You can't understand a problem if you haven't had it. So then you need to do, and role play or not, but there are so many ways you can probably use AI now to create a situation where a problem occurs, just to get the feeling of how. This is why we have fire alarm practices, right? Because in the event of a fire alarm, you need to know what's going to happen, and you won't be able to do that if you haven't practiced it. So it's the same with the customer journeys and the customer experience. You need to try to understand it. Anyway, we have a last question. This is my favorite question.
Yeah, I know you love this question. What is your top achievement? You can either take this from a customer experience, an employee experience, or human experience perspective, but what is the achievement that's really made you proud during your career?
Well, I have to say, Joanna, if you have asked me this question maybe 5 years ago, I would have reflected my times in on front of the executive board and getting them to applause, like, yes, great findings and so on. But looking at where I am as of today, my greatest achievements have been when my customers get the competence and confidence to proceed with their CX initiatives. So I see myself as an enabler for my customer success. I have had my time in the limelight and in front of the executive boards. That doesn't really give me the sense of gratitude or accomplishment anymore. What does, on the other hand, is, for instance, I have a customer, I have been working with them for 2 years now, and it's time for me now to move back. They have built the competence, they have built the processes and the understanding, And I'm super proud of where they are as of today. They have all the kind of the tools to continue from here without my support. And that's something that makes me really, really proud.
You've made yourself, yeah.
And I noticed that shine through in you also last year at the Business to Business conference when you had one of your clients on stage, and I just saw you glowing with proudness.
Yeah.
That there she's telling her story, and so good on. Well done you.
Yeah, and definitely a reason to be proud.
Yeah.
So we're actually at the end of today's episode. This has been interesting, Joanna, having you side by side here.
Yeah, I quite liked it. I think we should do it more often.
We should, and it's such a great guest too. I mean, this is I think you're the third or fourth guest of this this ongoing season at the CXPod. And I'm a little sort of confused why we haven't had Anna-Maija on before, but at least now you're here. And it was great talking to you. I'm also really excited because we will be seeing you in April again for the Nordic B2B CX Conference.
We might need to shorten the name.
We should make an acronym or something. But it's going to be so exciting to both see you again and also to see what customers you have brought with you this time, and also for anybody who wants to attend this conference. I'm not going to try to repeat the name again. Check out the link in the show notes, because we're going to leave a link to the conference there, together with a link to your LinkedIn page, Anna-Maija, if anybody wants to get in touch. And we should mention that you are situated in Finland, Helsinki, right?
Yes, exactly.
Or Helsinki is
Helsinki, yes.
So if you are in Finland and you need a little bit of a hand trying to help you get going with your CX initiatives, Anna-Maija is the person to reach out to.
For sure. Happy to help. Yes.
All right. Thank you for today, Joanna. It was lovely having you here.
Thank you.
And
thank you, Anna-Maija.
Until next time.
Thank you. It was lovely to be here and great questions. I really enjoyed my time with you.
Thank you.
That's great. You have been listening to and been watching CXPod. Thank you for listening to the CXPod. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on LinkedIn, and please remember to follow us on Spotify and leave a review of what you think.